Hi, thanks for tuning in today to Front Porch Conversations here at the Advent Christian Village. I want to welcome our visitors on the porch today, John and Cathy Nicely. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
And we're going to learn a lot about you both in the next little while.
Okay.
Very good.
John, where were you born and where did you grow up?
I was born in 1950. My parents are Johnny and Nancy Nicely. I was born in the Clifton Forge Hospital, the old C&O Hospital, Chesapeake, Ohio.
And that's
Associated
Virginia.
Railroad. That's in Virginia, Allegheny County, Clifton Forge.
And Cathy, what about you?
I was born in Nashville, Tennessee at Vanderbilt University Hospital.
And tell us a little bit about your early life, John.
I had the ideal life. I had lots of friends, and we played ball and caught fish and lizards, flying squirrels, waded in the creeks, climbed the mountains, picked pawpaws, blueberries, huckleberries, picked crab apples. I sold all these things for money, and the lizards sold well during fish season and stuff. And I had lots of friends that we hung out with and went over to Rainbow Rock, crossed the mountain, and got on the mountain there. And the Devil's Backbone is a rock formation there. Not many people got to do that, but we did that as kids. Waded the river and just had an ideal childhood with lots of relatives and friends. And
Do you have siblings?
I have two sisters, Carol and Charlene. Carol's a teacher, retired, and Charlene's a nursing administrator.
Cathy, what about you?
Well, I left Nashville. I don't remember much about it when I was about 18 months old. So my parents relocated to Orlando, Florida, where they opened their own printing business. And it was a business where the business took place in the front of the house, and we lived in the back of the house. So a lot of my early years were back and forth and pretending like I was teaching and working in the office, and then we'd get into trouble for playing with the equipment and things like that. So, and then we later relocated to Altamont Springs, which is a suburb of Orlando, and that's where my most formative years were. We didn't do as many fun and exciting things as that because it was much more city-based there outside of Orlando. But we had a good life there. My father passed away when I was 9, and after his death, about a year and a half later, we relocated to the Tampa Bay area, and in my preteen years, and that's where I was lucky enough to meet the Nicely family. I actually met them for the first time when I was 11, and I did not know this until after we were married, but I went back through my mother's wedding book from when she had remarried and we moved over, and his father had actually performed the wedding.
Oh my goodness.
So we didn't know that we had been connected for so long. Yeah.
What about education? Where did you attend school? And John, you can
Started off in Y.E. Smith Elementary in Durham, North Carolina, and Holland Holton Junior High was a junior high school. Came to Florida, went to Turkey Creek High School, graduated from there.
Where is that?
Turkey Creek's near Plant City, and had a really fun time there. Played baseball and football and sports, and just had a good time hanging out with the guys. And went from there to South Florida, University of South Florida for a while. Transferred to Florida A&M for my pharmacy degree. And it's an interesting story there. I got accepted to the University of Florida and Florida A&M, and I was running for a county commission seat. And a little lady raised her hand and asked me a question. She says, "Can you support me?" And I had no idea what she was talking about. And after the meeting, I went up to her and said, "Ma'am, what were you talking about?" She says, I'm a black lady, and you're a white man, and I want to know if you can support me." Right then and there, I made my decision. I was going to Florida A&M to see if I was a racist. And that being said, I found out I wasn't. And I went back and looked her up and told her my answer was, yeah, I can represent you. Went on to Mercer, Spent some time there as a graduate student. There was a new degree out called a PharmD degree, a doctor in pharmacy degree. Even before that, I got my master's in business administration. Let me preface that. And I got that at the Tampa College of Business. And that was a very interesting format because it was more like international business as opposed to domestic business stuff. And the Chernobyl issue came up during that time, and that was one of the subjects we talked about in detail. Went to Mercer for a while, transferred to University of Colorado to get my degree. They had more of a business type format out there. So we went there and graduated my doctorate, and the rest is history.
Well, you have a long line of schools.
Oh yeah, everything was different. Taking a little piece here, a little piece there, and putting it together. I got well educated.
Cathy, what about you?
Well, as far as my early years of school, I always tell people I went to 10 different schools between kindergarten and graduating high school. Not because we were military, but because in a city the size of Orlando, they were constantly rebuilding. So they would tear down a school to build a mall and you'd transfer to another school till the new school was built. And so a lot of that happened. And then, of course, I moved and but I graduated from Plant City High School in Plant City, and I started out at Hillsborough Community College with the intent of becoming a dental hygienist, and I spent one semester at St. Pete Dental School, and then changed my mind and completed my associate's degree, and then went on to the University of South Florida, where I got my degree in special education. So,
And that's been your career
that
path.
has been my career, yes.
And John, we know you most recently here as a village pharmacist. So, but you have other work experience, and is that right?
Yeah, I was a ordained minister for the Advent Christian Church, and it was kind of a godly intervention, I guess. My dad had double carotid surgeries on his neck, and he tried to come back to the church early, and he got up there and read the scripture. And he looked down and pointed to me like this and told me to come up, and he pointed to the scripture. And he sat down. Didn't say a word, but sat down. I started speaking, and that was my first expository message. And from there on, I was encouraged by him and others to explore the conference and see if I wanted to do that at all. I didn't want to do it at all. Even to the day I came up here and interviewed with the board, and but God had His plan in place, and I pastored the Seffner Advent Christian Church for about 16 years before I retired and came up here and got a new career. And the rest is history. It's been a dynamic career in serving the Lord, and my pharmacy, for example, is one of the best churches I ever pastored because it allowed me to involve myself in so many components of community service. I can go in detail and talk about a lot of things we did. For example, clothing ministry. I cooperated with a lady who made children's clothes, and we shipped them to Honduras. We had inner city ministry, feeding the inner city kids and ministering to them with devotions and stuff, and feeding them a couple days a week through the Bixler Church here. That was the peanut butter and jelly under the bridge mission. I went to several mission trips during my time here. Honduras was my first mission trip with my son, Keith. Cuba with you ladies, and had a wonderful time with y'all, and a blessed time there. And these are churches down there that you get to speak in. Mission 2, feed. We went into jungles and fed families in their huts, and you wouldn't believe the conditions that people live in certain segments of the world. Bahamas, went there to help build buildings after the hurricane that stayed over that one part of the island for 4 days. So my life has been very, very blessed with opportunities. Went to Israel recently with the church, and that was just icing on the cake. It was just fun to walk where Jesus walked, and we went from the north of Israel down to the southernmost part of Israel, and didn't feel in harm's way at all with all the stuff going on in that part of the world. So God has blessed Cathy and me in our ministry. For somebody that didn't want to go in the ministry, we baptized, 50 people, 40 people, something like that the first year. And the church grew and grew, and things happened that wasn't my doing because I didn't know what I was doing. It's kind of, God, if you want me in this, show me the way and I'll do it, and whatever it is.
And you've certainly followed that lead.
Well, it's been very, very rewarding on all fronts. It's been challenged. If I would say I missed the boat somewhat, I put work ahead of family because there was so much to do at work wherever I was, whether it's closing a hospital or opening a hospital or closing a pharmacy, opening a pharmacy, getting this place up here licensed. Cathy and I were separated for 4 years before she came up here permanently. That's a struggle to make it work. But God was in it again. Jim Humbles was gracious enough to have a conversation up here. I was supposed to stay 3 months. I think I stayed a total of over 14 years. So that's the way that worked itself out. So lots of opportunity there for those willing to work.
Absolutely, and to listen for whatever your call is.
Yeah, I'll give you a story. I'm going to use it in a graduation exercise at the college. I'm going to speak there pretty soon. If you got the time to do it.
Sure.
We went to Plains, Georgia, and I was very interested in the politics. And here we have a sitting president, probably going to go down in history as one of the best ex-presidents we ever had with what he did with elections and stuff like that. Well, I went to the restroom.
Oh, we were at the church. You got to.
Oh, yeah. We went to
We
church
were
on Sunday.
at the church, Maranatha Baptist Church.
Thank you. Well, yeah, I went to the restroom too.
Thank you.
And there in the restroom, a man came in. And I could tell something was on his mind. He was nervous and kind of squirmy and stuff like that. And normally my sense of humor would say, please don't pee on my feet. You know. But we stood there. He said, how you doing? I said, hey, good. How are you doing? He says, I'm not doing very good. I said, what's going on? He says, I'm a candidate for the church here today, and I'm about ready to get in my car and go home. I'm that nervous and stuff like that. And I told him, I said, look, if you preach and say what God's got you wanting to say, and say no more, no less, just preach what's on your heart from God, you're going to do fine. Well, he went out there, and lo and behold, I was in the bathroom with the next pastor of the Maranatha Church. They elected him as pastor, and he's the first African-American to pastor that church. An interesting side note, Jimmy Carter left his other family church, which had been in his family for a long, long time. He came to this church because of racism. And then that Sunday, I happened to be the guy that was ready to encourage, and he took it to heart. Great message, by the way.
Absolutely. That's been one of the highlights of my life, is to get to go and hear Jimmy Carter teach Sunday school there.
Well,
Quite an experience,
Quite
isn't
an
it?
experience, but I really felt sorry for the preacher who had to follow him.
Yeah.
well, interesting note, we had this lady talking behind us. Right behind
Would
us,
not
and
stop
would not
talking
stop
behind us.
Turned to be Rosalind.
Talked through the whole Sunday school service.
Mr. Carter goes around the room and talks to people where Sunday school starts. And he asked me who I was, and I told him where I was from and who I was. And he went around the room, came back, and he says, how about leading us in prayer for the Sunday school before we start? So I got an opportunity to pray for them to use wisdom in choosing the pastor. And I said, and bless this Sunday school teacher. You know, and I still remember the prayer. So, and it was a cool morning for us that you don't see very often take place.
Mm-hmm. Cathy, what about your work experience?
Well, I have been teaching children with special needs for 29 years. This next year will be my 30th and hopefully my last. I plan to retire. But it has been, I've certainly learned more from any of my children than they've ever learned from me. I spent my first year in a very small community school where most of the children walked. I think they had one bus that brought in some students, but most of the children walked from the community. And I learned more in that first year than I did in all the years I was in college, because the reality is it's a challenge every day. You know, trying to get across to the kids that, you know, what the state and the federal government want us to get across to them, when really they just want to come and have a good meal and have somebody believe in them and trust them, and you've got to address all those things first. And then my next 17 years I was at Dover Elementary, which is was in my community and where my children went to school, and so I established a wonderful relationship with my coworkers and everything, and we had clubs that we sponsored outside of the school building, and were able to meet the needs of a very special group of children. That school was about 75% Hispanic and migrant, and so they had some very different, unique needs, in addition to learning disabilities and things like that. So we had a great team, and we were able to really bring some opportunities to these children that otherwise they wouldn't be able to have. And that was a wonderful experience there. The 4 years that we were separated, I was actually trying to get a position up here, but Suwannee County is very much they want to make sure they have their own. They were looking for somebody that would have longevity here, and an outsider didn't seem like and that's exactly what I was told by the people who did eventually hire me. But I got a position at what was then Suwannee Intermediate, and now it's Springcrest Elementary. We used to have only 4th and 5th grade, which was very interesting. That's my favorite age group, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Now we have pre-K through 5. This past year was my first year with all of the students. And again, I've been there for 11 years now, and we've developed a great team. And there are challenges being a rural community. You don't have a lot of the same resources and things, so you really have to work together, teachers and special educators and administrative staff, to make sure that you're meeting the needs of these kids in a rural community like this. So it's been a blessing. And one thing that I will add to that is that when I left Hillsborough County is one of the largest districts in the United States, and a lot of things were happening, things were changing, where they were taking things out of schools that were meaningful to me as a Christian person. When I came to Suwannee County and they had prayers before we had faculty meetings, it floored me. But again, a blessing to be in a community where there's still people who, you know, keep their faith and keep it as a part of their day-to-day business, as much as we are allowed to do so.
Well, and that has certainly been a ministry as well.
Yes.
You're working with those children and their families.
I've been to a number of, with my students, I've been to weddings, I've been to baby showers, I've been to baptisms, concerts where students have been in programs in their churches and things like that. And I've always told them, if you're doing something in church, or you're graduating or whatever, please let me know and I will come. Wherever you are, I will come. And so, yeah.
Well, I know that Cathy, you said you met John, the Nicely family rather, when you were 11. How did you all start to notice each other and when?
Well, we were both members of the Plant City Community Theater. And when I was 17, I was doing some choreography for one of the plays, and he and his sister and a group of people from the hospital, Plant City Hospital, where he worked at that time, were part of the cast. So that was the beginnings of me getting to know him. Now, we joke around, I was a candy striper in the hospital when I was 14, so I knew him, but he was just that guy in the pharmacy. I was too busy.
And she was the kid with the brace.
Yeah, I wore headgear that went around my face like this and my little candy striper outfit. But in community theater over the years, as we performed in different shows together, we got to know each other better. And you know, there's an age difference between the two of us. We're 15 years apart in age. And I was struggling with what I wanted to, I mean, I was in college already, but I was still struggling with kind of what I wanted to be, you know, in this life. And he was there to provide, well, he loaned me a book, and that's how it started. He loaned me a book to read about, you know, making decisions and how to think positively and think about how you want to make your impact on the world. And then from there, a lot of laughter. He's one of the funniest people that I've ever known. And so that humor and his commitment to his faith and very much a person committed to family and community service and things like that.
It was the whole package.
It was the whole package, yeah.
John, what about you?
Who did you marry? You know my take on this?
Yeah. I like this. Let's leave it there, John. I've never seen you
Okay.
speechless.
Yeah. All I know is I married up. I'll say it again. I have never in my life met a woman like Cathy. Everything about her I like. She's quiet, supportive, understanding, compassionate, kicks me in the butt if I need to be kicked in the butt, brings me back down to earth sometimes. It gives me good ideas. She had an idea the other day I thought was pretty spectacular. She says, why don't we get these mattresses and spray them for mites
We
and
were
everything
talking
like
about
that?
old mattresses.
And cover them with Mickey Mouse stuff and stuff like that. Make them play bouncy things for children all over where they're going to be. And have them in a water-resistant type thing. Now, there's a lot of things that you'd have to check out to see if it's positive, you know, mites and stuff like that in the mattresses. But that might be a good idea. She comes up with stuff like that all the time, and it's worth thinking about.
I'm just into trying to figure out how we can recycle and make things better. Yeah.
She's an avid recycler. We go to Lafayette and recycle all the plastic stuff we got. She's kind of the glue that makes sense of our family.
Tell us about your family. You're kind of a multi-generational family.
We do. Living in our household currently, it's John and I, and then my son, Keith. He just completed nursing school last year, and he's there. And my mother-in-law, she's 91, and she had been at the nursing home during the COVID crisis, and we decided to bring her home. So we've been taking care of her. So it's been a different experience for us. His sister Carol helps us with a lot of the care, so she's in and out. And my daughter Brittany, who's also a nurse, she and our grandson are in and out. So on any given day, we have 3 to 7 people in our house. I have learned to cook. I have had to learn to cook. I was never, that's one of the things when I first started dating him, I said, I hope you're not looking for somebody who can cook, because I don't. And, but I have learned to cook because Miss Nicely's we call her Nanny. She's not able to, go out to restaurants and things like that. So we make sure we,
I tell
prepare.
everybody that comes into our house to visit and stuff, we almost have a revolving door in our house now.
We've got a sign up that says the gathering place.
I tell everybody, Mom's the only one happy in our house.
Yeah, we're blessed to be able to take care of her.
Yeah.
Would you each share with our viewers what advice you would give for a young person today?
Well, I mean, working with young people all the time, my advice is that you need to find something in your life that's going to be not only fulfilling for you, but meaningful for other people. Our life is not about what we get out of it. It's really what we can do for other people and serve, and find every opportunity you can to serve other people.
John?
Don't believe the no factor. Lots of children are saying, no, you can't do, are told, no, you can't do this. No, you do this. How about doing this with your life? I think learn to laugh, and don't stop learning to laugh, and find things funny as you go through life. Give it all you got, whatever you're going to do, whether skateboarding champion of the world, but shoot way up, so no matter where you land, you're going to be high up with something. Don't lay back and do nothing. Keep working toward goals that are achievable, and then build on those goals to go up and up and up, and look for happiness factor, and be careful who you hang around, because that's who you become pretty much in terms of social interaction with kids. So, and love the Lord, find a relationship with God, and know who He is and who you are in relationship with Him.
John, I know you recently did something on your bucket list, and that was a hot air balloon ride.
I did.
What about you, Cathy? Do you have a bucket list?
Well, it kind of ties in with his. That's why I want to go ahead and retire this next year, so we can start doing some of those things. We love to travel. We love to explore history and archaeological sites and things like that. So we have a lot of things that we want to do as soon as I can be free all the time. But yeah, flying in a hot air balloon is one of our very first dates we tried to do, and we couldn't go up because of some kind of condition. We tried it 2 other times. We finally got to go up, so it's something we've been working on.
It's fun.
Yeah,
I bet. It's on my bucket list.
Parasailing's fun. If you get a chance to parasail to the beach, that's fun.
And zip lining, we've done all that stuff.
We like it stuff.
Well, I bet we could stay here and talk all day.
Oh, we could.
It's been wonderful, but thank you so much. And thanks for tuning in today.